Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. I got a message from Shivaram Maharaj today, who told me that these readings are wonderful and they're affecting people, even people he knows. So thanks to all of you out there. Please keep sharing because it's a good thing. Share a good thing is a good thing. Okay. Srila Sanatana Goswami's prayer to the Srimad-Bhagavatam is profound and helps us go deeper. I don't know about you, but I'm realizing that you just keep hearing this, even one thing, it goes deeper and deeper. You know? There's no end to it. You can hear this every day and it just lights you up and lights the reading up. It's amazing. Association with Sanatana Goswami. So here it is, Srimad-Bhagavatam Mahima Stotram, and it goes like this. Sarva Shashabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidvandodita Vidya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Padaya Prema Varshaksharayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Mad Mahadana Mad Nistaraga Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadhu sadhu tadayin atini chochatakara hanamun shakadachin mam premnarit kantayospuda. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So now we've reached the 10th chapter, 7th canto, and now we're hearing Nrsingadev's blessings to Prahlada Maharaj. And you'll also hear Lord Nrsingadev glorifying Prahlada Maharaj, starting from text 14. One who always remembers your activities and my activities also, and who chants the prayers you have offered, becomes free in due course of time from the reactions of material activities. Purport. Here it is stated that anyone who chants and hears about the activities of Prahlada Maharaj, and in relationship with Prahlada's activities, the activities of Nrsingadev, gradually becomes free from all the bondage of fruitive activities. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 2:15, 256, Yam hina vyatayantyete purusham purusharshava samaduka sukham dhiram somritat vaya kalpate. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. Dukeshu anovigna mana sukeshu vigatas priyaha vitaragabaya krodha stitadir munir uchate. One who is not disturbed in spite of the threefold miseries, who is not elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady mind. A devotee should not be aggrieved in an awkward position, nor should he feel extraordinarily happy in material opulence. This is the way of expert management of material life. Because a devotee knows how to manage expertly, he is called Jivan Mukta. As Rupa Goswami explains in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Iha yasya harer dasye karmana manasa gira nikila swapyabastasu jivan mukta suuchate. A person acting in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, in the service of Krishna, with his body, mind, intelligence, and words, is a liberated person, even within this material world, although he may be engaged in many so-called material activities. Because of constantly engaging in devotional service in any condition of life, a devotee is free from all material bondage. Bhakti punati man-nishta shapakan apisambhavad. Even one born in a family of meat-eaters is purified if he engages in devotional service. Bhagavatam 11:14-21. Srila Jiva Goswami cites this verse in logically supporting that anyone who chants about the pure life and activities of Prahlada Maharaj is freed from the reactions of material activities. Text 15-17. Prahlada Maharaj said, O Supreme Lord, because you are so merciful to the fallen souls, I ask you for only one benediction. I know that my father, at the time of his death, had already been purified by your glance upon him, but because of his ignorance of your beautiful power and supremacy, he was unnecessarily angry at you, falsely thinking that you were the killer of his brother. Thus, he directly blasphemed your lordship, the spiritual master of all living beings, and committed heavily sinful activities directed against me, your devotee. I wish that he be excused for these sinful activities. Purport. Although Hiranyakashipu was purified as soon as he came in contact with the Lord's lap and the Lord saw him, Prahlada Maharaj still wanted to hear from the Lord's own mouth that his father had been purified by the Lord's causeless mercy. Prahlada Maharaj offered this prayer to the Lord for the sake of his father. As a Vaishnava son, despite all the inconveniences imposed upon him by his father, he could not forget his father's affection. Text 18. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Prahlad, O most pure, O great saintly person, your father has been purified along with 21 forefathers in your family. Because you were born in this family, the entire dynasty has been purified. Purport. The word tri saptabi means 7 multiplied by 3. In one's family, one can count back 4 or 5 generations to one's great-grandfather or even one's great-grandfather's father. But since the Lord mentions 21 forefathers, this indicates that the benediction expands to other families also. Before the present family in which one has taken birth, one must have been born in other families. Thus, when a Vaishnava takes birth in a family, by the grace of the Lord, he purifies not only that family, but also the families of his previous births. Text 19. Whenever and wherever there are peaceful, equipoised devotees who are well behaved and decorated with all good qualities, that place and the dynasties there, even if condemned, are purified. Purport. Wherever exalted devotees stay, not only they and their dynasties, but the entire country is purified. Hare Krishna. Text 20. My dear Prahlada, king of the Daityas, because of being attached to devotional service to me, my devotee does not distinguish between lower and higher living entities. In all respects, he is never jealous of anyone. Text 21. Those who follow your example will naturally become my pure devotees. You are the best example of my devotee, and others should follow in your footsteps. Purport. In this connection, Srila Madhvacharya quotes a verse from the Skanda Purana. Ritate tu tatvikam devan naradadings tataivacham praradad utamak konu Vishnu bhaktau jagat-traye. There are many, many devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they have been enumerated in Srimad-Bhagavatam 6.3.20 as follows. Swayambhur Naradak Shambhu Kumarak Kapilo Manu Prahlado Janako Bhishmo Balir Vyasakir Vayam. Of the 12 authorized devotees, Lord Brahma, Narada, Lord Shiva, Kapila, Manu, and so on, Prahlad Maharaj is understood to be the best example. Test 22. My dear child, your father has already been purified just by the touch of my body at the time of his death. Nonetheless, the duty of a son is to perform the Shraddha ritualistic ceremony after his father's death, so that his father may be promoted to a planetary system where he may become a good citizen and devotee. Purport. In this regard, Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur says that although Hiranyakashipu was already purified, he had to take birth in a higher planetary system to become a devotee again. Prahlad Maharaj was advised to perform the ritualistic ceremony as a matter of etiquette, for the Supreme Personality of Godhead under no circumstances wants to stop the regulated principles. Madhva Muni also instructs Madhu Kaitaba Bhaktyabhava Abhava Durau Bhagavato Mritau Tama Eva Kramad Aptau Bhaktya Ched Yo Harim Yayao. When the demons Madhu and Kaitaba were killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, their kinsmen also observed the ritualistic ceremonies so that these demons could return home, back to Godhead. Text 23. After performing the ritualistic ceremonies, take charge of your father's kingdom. Sit upon the throne and do not be disturbed by materialistic activities. Please keep your mind fixed upon me without transgressing the injunctions of the Vedas. As a matter of formality, you may perform your particular duties. Purport. When one becomes a devotee, he no longer has any duty to the Vedic regulative principles. One has many duties to perform, but if one becomes fully devoted to the Lord, he no longer has such obligations. As stated in Srimad-Bhagavatam 11.5.41, Devarshi Bhutapta Nrinam Pritrinam Nakinkado Nayam Rini Charajan Sarvatmana Yak Sharanam Sharanyam Gato Mukundam Parihrityakartam. One who is fully surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord is no longer a debtor to his forefathers, the great sages, human society, the common man, or any living entity. The Supreme Personality of Godhead nonetheless advised Prahlada Maharaj to follow the regulative principles, for since he was going to be the king, others would follow his example. Thus Lord Nishingadev advised Prahlada Maharaj to engage in his political duties so that people would become the Lord's devotees. Yad yadachirati shrestas tad tadeva tado janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokas tad anuvartate. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Bhagavad Gita 3:21. One should not be attached to any materialistic activities, but a devotee may perform such activities as an example to show the common man that one should not deviate from the Vedic injunctions. Text 24. Sri Narada Muni continued, thus, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead ordered, Prahlada Maharaj performed the ritualistic ceremonies for his father, O King Yudhishthir. He was then enthroned in the kingdom of Hiranyakashipu as directed by the Brahmanas. Purport. It is essential that society be divided into 4 groups of men, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. Here we see that although Prahlada was perfect in every respect, he nonetheless followed the instructions of the Brahmanas who performed the Vedic rituals. Therefore, in society, there must be a very intelligent class of leaders who are well versed in the Vedic knowledge so that they can guide the entire populace to follow the Vedic principles and thus gradually become most perfect and eligible to return home, back to Godhead. Text 25. Lord Brahma, surrounded by the other demigods, was bright-faced because the Lord was pleased. Thus he offered prayers to the Lord with transcendental words. 26. Lord Brahma said, O Supreme, Lord of all lords, proprietor of the entire universe, O benedictor of all living entities, O original person, Adi Purusha, because of our good fortune, you have now killed this sinful demon who was giving trouble to the entire universe. Purport. The word Purvaja is described in Bhagavad Gita 8.10.8. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam pravartate. All the demigods, including Lord Brahma, are manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the original person, the cause of all causes, is Govinda, the Adi Purusham. Text 27. This demon, Hiranyakashipu, received from me the benediction that he would not be killed by any living being within my creation. With this assurance, and with strength derived from austerities and mystic power, he became excessively proud and transgressed all the Vedic injunctions. 28. By great fortune, Hiranyakashipu's son, Prahlada Maharaj, has now been released from death, although he is a child. For although he is a child, he is an exalted devotee. Now he is fully under the protection of your lotus feet. 29. My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, you are the Supreme Soul. If one meditates upon your transcendental body, you naturally protect him from all sources of fear, even the imminent danger of death. Purport. Everyone is sure to die, for no one is excused from the hands of death, which is but a feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mrityu sarva harashchaham. When one becomes a devotee, however, he is not destined to die according to a limited duration of life. Everyone has a limited duration of life, but a devotee's lifetime can be extended by the mercy of the Supreme Lord, who is able to nullify the results of one's karma. Karmani nir dahati kintu chabakti bhajam. This is the statement of Brahma Samhita 554. A devotee is not under the laws of karma. Therefore, even a devotee's scheduled death can be avoided by the causeless mercy of the Supreme Lord. God protects the devotee even from the extreme danger of death. Text 30. The personality of Godhead replied, My dear Brahma, my dear Lord Brahma, O great Lord born from the lotus flower, just as it is dangerous to feed milk to a snake, so it is dangerous to give benedictions to demons, who are by nature ferocious and jealous. I warn you not to give such benedictions to any demon again. Text 31. Narada Muni continued, O King Yudhishthira, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is not visible to any ordinary human being, spoke in this way, instructing Lord Brahma. Then, being worshipped by Brahma, the Lord disappeared from that place. Text 32. Prahlada Maharaj then worshipped and offered prayers to all the demigods, such as Brahma, Shiva, and the Prajapatis, who are all parts of the Lord. Text 33. Thereafter, along with Shukracharya and the other great saints, Lord Brahma, whose seat is on the lotus flower, made Prahlada the king of all the demons and giants in the universe. Purport. By the grace of Lord Nrsingadev, Prahlada Maharaj became a greater king than his father, Hiranyakashipu. Prahlada's inauguration was performed by Lord Brahma in the presence of other saintly persons and demigods. (34) O King Yudhishthira, after all the demigods headed by Lord Brahma were properly worshipped by Prahlada Maharaj, they offered Prahlada their utmost benedictions and then returned to their respective abodes. Text 35. Thus the two associates of Lord Vishnu, who had become Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, the sons of Diti, were both killed. By illusion, they had thought that the Supreme Lord, who was situated in everyone's heart, was their enemy. Purport. The discourse concerning Lord Nrsingadev and Prahlada Maharaj began when Maharaj Yudhishthira asked Narada how Shishupal had merged into the body of Krishna. Shishupal and Dantavakra were the same Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Here Narada Muni is relating how in 3 different births the associates of Lord Vishnu were killed by Lord Vishnu himself. First, they were the demons Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Text 36. Being cursed by the Brahmanas, the same 2 associates took birth again as Kumbhakarna and the 10-headed Ravana. These 2 Rakshasas were killed by Lord Ramachandra's extraordinary power. 37. Pierced by the arrows of Lord Ramachandra, both Kumbhakarna and Ravana lay on the ground and left their bodies, fully absorbed in thought of the Lord, just as they had in their previous births as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Text 38. They both took birth again in human society as Shishupal and Dantavakra and continued in the same enmity toward the Lord. It is they who merged into the body of the Lord in your presence. Purport. Vairānubandhena. Acting like the Lord's enemy is also beneficial for the living entity. Kamad dveshad bhayat snehad. Whether in lusty desire, anger, fear, or envy of the Lord, somehow or other, as recommended by Srila Rupa Goswami, tasmat kinapyapayena, one should become attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and ultimately achieve the goal of returning home back to Godhead. What then is to be said of one who is related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a servant, friend, father, mother, or conjugal lover? Text 39. Not only Shishupal and Dantavakra, but also many other kings who acted as enemies of Krishna attained salvation at the time of death. Because they thought of the Lord, they received spiritual bodies and forms the same as his. Just as worms captured by a black drone obtain the same type of body as the drone. Purport. The mystery of yogic meditation is explained here. Real yogis always meditate on the form of Vishnu within their hearts. Consequently, at the time of death, they give up their bodies while thinking of the forms of Vishnu and thus attained Vishnu Loka, Vaikuntha Loka, where they receive bodily features the same as those of the Lord. From the 6th canto, we have already learned that when the Vishnu Dutas came from Vaikuntha to deliver Ajamil, they looked exactly like Vishnu with 4 hands and the same features as Vishnu. Therefore, we may conclude that if one practices thinking of Vishnu and is fully absorbed in thinking of him at the time of death, one returns home, back to Godhead. Even enemies of Krishna, who thought of Krishna in fear, bhaya, such as King Kamsa, received bodies in a spiritual identity similar to that of the Lord. Text 40. By devotional service, pure devotees who incessantly think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead receive bodies similar to his. This is known as Sarupya Mukti. Although Shishupal, Dantavakra, and other kings thought of Krishna as an enemy, they also achieved the same result. Purport. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, in connection with Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Sanatana Goswami, it is explained that a devotee should externally execute his routine devotional service in a regular way, but should always inwardly think of the particular mellow in which he is attracted to the service of the Lord. I'll read that again. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, in connection with Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Sanatana Goswami, it is explained that a devotee should externally execute his routine devotional service in a regular way, but should always inwardly think of the particular mellow in which he is attracted to the service of the Lord. This constant thought of the Lord makes the devotee eligible to return home, back to Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mam eti. After giving up his body, a devotee does not again receive a material body, but goes back to Godhead and receives a spiritual body resembling those of the Lord's eternal associates, whose activities he followed. However, the devotee likes to serve the Lord, he may constantly think of the Lord's associates, the cowherd boys, the gopis, the Lord's father and mother, his servants, and the trees, land, animals, plants, and water in the Lord's abode. Because of constantly thinking of these features, one acquires a transcendental position. Kings like Shishupal, Dantavakra, Kamsa, Paundraka, Narakasura, and Shalva were all similarly delivered. This is confirmed by Madhvacharya. Paundrake Narake Chaiva Shalve Pukangse Charukmani Avishtas tu Harir Bhaktas Tad Bhaktya Harimapire. Paundraka, Narakasura, Salva, and Kamsa were all inimical toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But because all these kings constantly thought of him, they achieved the same liberation, Sarupya Mukti. The Jnana Bhakta, the devotee who follows the path of Jnana, also attains the same destination. If even the enemies of the Lord achieve salvation by constantly thinking about the Lord, what is to be said of pure devotees who always engage in the Lord's service and who think of nothing but the Lord in every activity? Text 41. Everything you ask me about Shishupal and others attained salvation. Everything you ask me about how Shishupal and others attained salvation, although they were inimical, has now been explained to you by me. Text 42. In this narration about Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, various expansions or incarnations of the Lord have been described. And the killing of the two demons, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, has also been described. Purport. Avatars, or incarnations, are expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, Govinda. Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, who is the original person, non-dual, infallible, and without beginning. Although he expands into unlimited forms, he is still the original, and although he is the oldest person, he always appears as a fresh youth. Such eternal, blissful, and all-knowing forms of the Lord cannot be understood by the academic wisdom of the Vedas, but they are always manifest to pure, unalloyed devotees. Brahma Samhita 5:33. The Brahma Samhita describes the avatars. Indeed, all the avatars are described in the authentic scriptures. No one can become an avatar or incarnation, although this has become fashionable in the age of Kali. The avatars are described in the authentic scriptures, Shastras, and therefore, before one risks accepting a pretender as an avatar, one should refer to the Shastras. The Shastras say everywhere that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and that he has innumerable avatars or incarnations. Elsewhere in the Brahma Samhita it is said, Ramadi Murtishu Kala Niyamena Tishtan. Rama, Nrishinga, Varaha, and many others are consecutive expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After Krishna comes Balaram. After Balaram is Sankarshan, then Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Narayana, and then the Purusha avatars, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakashai Vishnu, and Chirodakashai Vishnu. All of them are avatars. One must hear about the avatars. Narrations about such avatars are called Avatara Katha, the narrations of Krishna's expansions. Hearing and chanting these narrations is completely pious. Shrinvatam, Swakata Krishna, Punya, Shravana Kirtana. One who hears and chants can become punya, purified of material contamination. Whenever there are references to the avatars, religious principles are established, and demons who are against Krishna are killed. The Krishna consciousness movement is spreading all over the world with two aims: to establish Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and to kill all the pretenders who falsely present themselves as avatars. The preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement must carry this conviction very carefully within their hearts and kill the demons who in many tactful ways vilify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. If we take shelter of Nrsingadev and Prahlada Maharaj, it will be easier to kill the demons who are against Krishna and to thus re-establish Krishna's supremacy. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the Supreme Lord and the original Lord. Prahlada Maharaj is our Guru, and Krishna is our worshipable God. As advised by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Guru Krishna Prasadi Poya Bhakti Lata Bij. If we can be successful in getting the mercy of Prahlada Maharaj and also that of Nrsingadev, then our Krishna consciousness movement will be extremely successful. The demon Hiranyakashipu had so many ways to try to become God himself. But although Prahlada Maharaj was chastised and threatened in many ways, he rigidly refused to accept his powerful demoniac father as God. Following the footsteps of Prahlada Maharaj, we should reject all the rascals who pretend to be God. We must accept Krishna and his incarnations and no one else. Text 33 and 34. 43 and 44. This narration describes the characteristics of the great and exalted devotee, Prahlada Maharaj, his staunch devotional service, his perfect knowledge, and his perfect detachment from material contamination. It also describes the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the cause of creation, maintenance, and annihilation. Prahlada Maharaj, in his prayers, has described the transcendental qualities of the Lord and has also described how the various abodes of the demigods and demons, regardless of how materially opulent, are destroyed by the mere direction of the Lord. Purport. Srimad-Bhagavatam is filled with descriptions of the characteristics of various devotees with reference to the service of the Lord. This Vedic literature is called Bhagavatam because it deals with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees. By studying Srimad-Bhagavatam under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master, one can perfectly understand the science of Krishna, the nature of the material and spiritual worlds, and the aim of life. Srimad-Bhagavatam Amalam Puranam. Srimad-Bhagavatam is the spotless Vedic literature, as we have discussed in the beginning of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Therefore, simply by understanding Srimad-Bhagavatam, one can understand the science of the activities of the devotees, the activities of the demons, the permanent abode, and the temporary abode. Through Srimad-Bhagavatam, everything is perfectly known. Text 45. Dharmo Bhagavatanam cha Bhagavan yena gamyate akyane smin samanatam adyatmikam asheshataha. The principles of religion by which one can actually understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are called Bhagavad Dharma. In this narration, therefore, which deals with these principles, actual transcendence is properly described. Purport. Through the principles of religion, one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Brahman, the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord, and Paramatma, the localized aspect of the Lord. When one is well conversant with all these principles, he becomes a devotee and performs Bhagavad Dharma. Prahlada Maharaj, the spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession, advised that this Bhagavad Dharma be instructed to students from the very beginning of their education. Komara achadat pragyo dharman bhagavatan iha. To understand the science of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the real purpose of education. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. One must simply hear about and describe Lord Vishnu and his various incarnations. This narration concerning Prahlada Maharaj and Lord Nrsingadev therefore has properly described spiritual, transcendental subjects. 46. One who hears and chants this narration about the omnipotence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is certainly liberated from material bondage without fail. Text 47. Prahlada Maharaj was the best among exalted devotees. Anyone who with great attention hears this narration concerning the activities of Prahlada Maharaj, the killing of Hiranyakashipu, and the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Nrsingadev, surely reaches the spiritual world where there is no anxiety. Text 48. Narada Muni continued, My dear Maharaj Yudhishthira, all of you, the Pandavas, are extremely fortunate, for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, lives in your palace just like a human being. Great saintly persons know this very well, and therefore they constantly visit this house. Purport. After hearing about the activities of Prahlada Maharaj, a pure devotee should be very anxious to follow in his footsteps. But such a devotee might be disappointed, thinking that not every devotee can come to the standard of Prahlada Maharaj. This is the nature of a pure devotee. He always thinks himself to be the lowest, to be incompetent and unqualified. Thus, after hearing the narration of Prahlada Maharaj's activities, Maharaj Yudhishthira, who was on the same standard of devotional service as Prahlada, might have been thinking of his own humble position. Narada Muni, however, could understand Maharaj Yudhishthira's mind, and therefore he immediately encouraged him by saying that the Pandavas were not less fortunate. They were as good as Prahlada Maharaj, because although Lord Nrsingadev appeared for Prahlada, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his original form as Krishna was always living with the Pandavas. Although the Pandavas, because of the influence of Krishna's Yoga Maya, could not think of their fortunate position, every saintly person, including the great sage Narada, could understand it. And therefore they constantly visited Maharaj Yudhishthira. Any pure devotee who is constantly conscious of Krishna is naturally very fortunate. The word nriloke, meaning within the material world, indicates that before the Pandavas there had been many, many devotees, such as the descendants of the Yadu dynasty and Vashishta, Marichi, Kashyapa, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva, who were all extremely fortunate. The Pandavas, however, were better than all of them, because Krishna himself lived with them constantly. Narada Muni therefore specifically mentioned that within this material world, Nriloke, the Pandavas were the most fortunate. 49. The impersonal Brahman is Krishna himself, because Krishna is the source of the impersonal Brahman. Yet, he is the origin of the transcendental bliss. He is the origin of the transcendental bliss sought by great saintly persons. Yet, he, the Supreme Person, is your most dear friend and constant well-wisher, and is intimately related to you as the son of your maternal uncle. Indeed, he is always like your body and soul, He is worshipable, yet he acts as your servant and sometimes as your spiritual master. Purport. There is always a difference of opinion about the absolute truth. One class of transcendentalists conclude that the absolute truth is impersonal, and another class concludes that the absolute truth is a person. In Bhagavad Gita, the absolute truth is accepted as the Supreme Person. Indeed, that Supreme Person himself, Lord Krishna, instructs in Bhagavad Gita, Brahmano hi pratishtaham, matak paradhanam nanyat. The impersonal Brahman is my partial manifestation, and there is no truth superior to me. That same Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, acted as the supreme friend and relative of the Pandavas. And sometimes he even acted as their servant by carrying a letter from the Pandavas to Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. Because Krishna was the well-wisher of the Pandavas, he also acted as guru by becoming the spiritual master of Arjuna. Arjuna accepted Krishna as his spiritual master, Shishas Teham, Shadi, Mam, Tvam, Prapanam. And Krishna sometimes chastised him. For example, the Lord said, Ashochan, Anvashochas Tvam, Priyabhadan, Jabashase. While speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. The Lord also said, Kutas Tva Kashmalamidam, Vishame Samapashtitam. My dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? Such was the intimate relationship between the Pandavas and Krishna. In the same way, a pure devotee of the Lord is always with Krishna through thick and thin. His way of life is Krishna. This is the statement of the authority, Sri Narada Muni. Text 50. Exalted persons like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma could not properly describe the truth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. May the Lord, who was always worshipped as the protector of all devotees by great saints who observe vows of silence, meditation, devotional service, and renunciation, be pleased with us. Purport. The absolute truth is sought by different persons in different ways, yet he remains inconceivable. Nonetheless, devotees like the Pandavas, the Gopis, the cowherd boys, Mother Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, and all the inhabitants of Vrindavan do not need to practice conventional processes of meditation to attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for he remains with them through thick and thin. Therefore, a saint like Narada, understanding the difference between transcendentalists and pure devotees, always prays that the Lord will be pleased with him. Text 51. My dear King Yudhishthir, long, long ago in history, a demon known as Maya Danava, who was very expert in technical knowledge, reduced the reputation of Lord Shiva. In that situation, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, saved Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is known as Mahadev, the most exalted demigod. Thus Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that although Lord Brahma did not know the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shiva could have known them. This historical incident proves that Lord Shiva derives power from Lord Krishna, the Parabrahman. We'll stop there tonight. Hare Krishna. Narada Muni ki jai. Prahlada Maharaj ki jai. Shingadev ki. Okay, we got our new mics today. Wireless, fancy dancy. They're a little bigger than these, but we'll see how they work tomorrow. Try them out tomorrow and then see how they work. Okay, open mic time. Tomorrow you have nothing today? Really? You look so satisfied. Yes, Pranahari.
In text 17, Prabhupada says, this is where Prahlada Maharaj asks about the benediction for his father. And the purport, Prabhupada says, as a Vaishnava son, despite all the inconveniences imposed upon him by his father, he could not forget his father's affection. So my question is that it almost seems like a material emotion, how it may seem sentimental, and I'm curious as devotees.
Well, what it's saying is that once one becomes the father or the son of another person, then you are the father and son of that person. You can't stop being the father and son of that person, no matter how one or the other acts. It is a material principle, but it's a reflection of a spiritual principle in the spiritual world. But as long as you're in the body of the person who fathered you, then you're that person's son. So Prahlada Maharaj, he was so pious and so pure that he still remembered that relationship and wanted the well-wishing of his father, because his father brought him into the world. And even if it's forgotten, the relationship, it's still there. It doesn't stop. The relationship doesn't stop. You can't stop that relationship. You may run away, but that doesn't mean that you're no longer the son of that person, or that person's no longer your father. So because Prahlada Maharaj was so pure and so exalted, when it came right down to it, when he was asked for benediction, he said, please protect him. Out of that affection. And that's the litmus test. That's a real test. You can treat someone, like that, who's treated you so badly. If you can treat them still, that's proof of the situation of a pure devotee. He really didn't see friends and enemies, even though what his father did was so abominable and so outrageous. Inconceivable.
We have a question by Rasa Rasika.
Rasa Rasika. Hare Krishna Rasa Rasika Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my obeisances. It is said there are 6 types of aggressors. For example, if a person attacks with a sharp weapon, tries to steal another's wife, etc., and that person can be killed. To what degree do Vaishnavas, devotees, follow this type of injunction, keeping in mind that we pray for the protection of the Lord, following the footsteps of Prahlada Maharaj?
Well, this is it's kind of a loaded question because, every situation is different. What it's saying is that if a person comes and attacks you and tries to, steal your wife or set your house on fire or steal or kill you, then you will not get sinful reactions for killing that person. Even in law, like in one country, if you try to do that, it will be against the law. There are some countries that if a person comes in, tries to steal your things, and you kill him, then you'll be in trouble. And in some countries, not. So that's kind of like a relative thing. But the general law of nature, God's laws, which always transcend any other material law, you won't actually get a material spirit, a sinful reaction for doing that, even if you get punished by that particular set of in the country, the laws or whatever. But on top of that, Srila Prabhupada said generally we should follow the laws of the state that we're living in. To show by example, what is that verse? Shakta karmanya vidbangso yata kurvanti bharata kuryad vidbang tata shaktis chakirshu lokasangraham. Shakirshu lokasangraham means as to do something as an example for others. So Shakta karmanya vidbangso, a person who is attached may act in one way, and asakta means unattached. Another person may be unattached, but act in the same way, just for the to set the example for others. Rupa Goswami gives the example that, say a person is drowning in a river, and you're a pure devotee of the Lord, and you know that the person's not the body, so you don't lament, and you think, I don't need to save this person. He's not his body, it's his karma, it's what's going on. But there's a person on the bridge looking down and watching, and he's going to think, oh, this is what the Vaishnavas are like. They're like, callous, rascals. For preaching, you should jump in and save that person. He uses that as an example. It's a gross example. Not that we wouldn't want to save a person who's drowning, even on our own. But the idea is that the philosophy is practical. It's not that just because there's a principle and you just treat people callously because they're not the body, and you don't, like if a devotee's sick, Prabhupada said, you take care of them, you show them kindness, and you support them, and whatever. Not that, well, Prabhu, you're not the body anyway, and leave them there to die or suffer, That's not. That's the misunderstanding of a neophyte, and the activity that comes from misunderstanding as a neophyte. So all these things have to be taken into consideration when you're applying these principles. You have the right to kill a person who comes and sets fire to your house. Call the FBI or call the police or something. If you know about it.
Vijaya Lakshmi Patel asked a couple questions as well.
Hare Krishna, Vijaya Lakshmi.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
Difference between transcendentalist and pure devotee is the first question.
Well, in this particular context, and all these kinds of questions have to deal with the context of what it's talking about. In the context, it was talking about a transcendentalist who is above the modes of nature, but has not yet come to Krishna consciousness, who doesn't yet know that Krishna is a person and that devotional service is the goal of life. But one is, the goal of his life is to become free, liberated, to emerge into the effulgence or to become liberated. That's a transcendentalist. There's four persons. There's karmis, there's yogis, there's jnanis, there's yogis, and there's bhaktas. So three of them are transcendentalists. The karmi is not a transcendentalist. His desire is to stay in this material world and improve their material conditions somehow or other. The jnani is searching for liberation. The yogi is meditating on the supersoul for mystic power and also for some kind of impersonal, state of being free from the material nature. And the bhakta is they're all transcendentalists, these three. But those other two are lower than the bhakta, who knows about devotion, about the form of God, and who at least hankers to be reinstated in his original devotional service to the Lord in the spiritual world eternally. So for those who are transcendentalists without the form of the Lord, they may get some bliss because the impersonal Brahman is Krishna, but they're touching Krishna from a great distance, and therefore the degree of bliss that they feel is much less. And therefore the devotees who are pure devotees are superior.
And then keep getting more questions. If there is no son, can a woman perform the last rites? This is still Vijaya Lakshmi.
If there is no son, can a woman still perform the rites? Yes.
Then he left a comment as well saying, the human life is precious because only in this form we have a chance to go back to Godhead. So we must take care of the devotee. If
Wait, see, I'm sorry. I was distracted. I was thinking of something else in regard to that last question. I was going to add something else, but I'm sorry. I distracted myself. Go ahead. Read it again.
The human life is precious because only in this form we have a chance to go back to Godhead. So we must take care of the devotee if his life is in danger.
Yes.
Okay. Vilas Manjari Das left a question as well. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna Vilas Manjari.
Could you speak about how we can benefit our families after reading this chapter? Lord Nrsimhadev said to Prahlada that even though he had been purified by his touch, Prahlada should still perform the Shraddha ceremony so that he can be promoted to a planet where he can become a good citizen and devotee. What can we do to our family members after their death?
Well, this is, here we go again. It's all time and circumstance. In the Kali Yuga, these kinds of ritualistic ceremonies, they don't work because you don't have the Brahmins. That's what I was thinking about with the last question. Can a woman do the Shraddha if there's no son? Yes and no. Even doing anyone to do a Shraddha properly in this age is impractical because there are no Brahmins to do the rituals, to say the mantras properly. Because in order to do those kind of rituals, you have to have a Brahmin to do the ritual for you. Even if you're a woman doing it or a man doing it, you have to have a qualified Brahmana to chant the Vedic mantras properly and to know how to do the rituals, And in Kali Yuga, there's no Brahmanas that are qualified to do that. I mean, now in ISKCON, there are devotees who are being trained in Mayapur, to be able to do that kind of thing. But even then, my understanding from Srila Prabhupada's teachings and his answering questions on this subject, the potency of the mantras and the potency of the material energy is just less now. So therefore, the best thing you can do is to become a pure devotee, is to learn the art of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra without offense, purely. Because you'll get everything from that. And that's the special benediction of Lord Chaitanya in the Kali Yuga. Because in Kali Yuga, we're just not qualified to do those kinds of things. We're not even qualified to do the Varnashram system exactly, properly, but we try our best. According to what we can do, we try our best. But ultimately, it's the chanting of Hare Krishna that takes us back to God in this life. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam. Kalo nasti bhakti. It's so clear. Kalo means Kali Yuga, that's now. Nasteva. No other way, no other way, no other way. So the best thing you can do for your parents and your forefathers and your relatives is to become a pure devotee. And just by your association they'll become benefited, just like it said. Prahlada Maharaj was so pure that generations before him and after him, even people that are not in our direct line, that are relatives of other families that we were in, 21 generations before. This is how the movement spreads. It's how people becomes delivered. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada said, and he got it from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he'd give up all of the marble and all of the opulence and all the temples if he could make one pure devotee. Because he knew if he could make one pure devotee, absolute pure devotee, then the perpetuation of the movement would be secure. And he made so many pure devotees, but that was his sentiment. Yes, Prana.
I really like this point in the purport, text 49. Narada Muni is glorifying the Pandavas and their relationship with Krishna, and the purport's about the difference of opinion between the impersonalists and the personalists on the absolute truth. And in the last two sentences of the purport, Srila Prabhupada states that, he says, such was the intimate relationship between the Pandavas and Krishna. In the same way, a pure devotee of the Lord is always with Krishna through thick and thin. His way of life is Krishna. And I really am struck by this sentence about how a pure devotee is always with Krishna through thick and thin, and his way of life is Krishna. And it made me think how, a pure devotee does not give up devotional service.
There's a very interesting verse in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita that you may want to hear. I don't know the verse, the Sanskrit and the English directly, but I know the gist of it, and I'll explain it to you. When Narada Muni was going from one devotee to another, looking for the most favored or the most exalted or the favorite devotee of Krishna, right? And he went for the Brahman, and then he went to a king, and then he went to Indra, and then he went to Brahma, and then he went to, like that. He ended up in Dwarka, and he went to see, Prahlada, and then he went Hanuman, and then he went to the Pandavas, and then Pandavas told them, no, we're not the best. You go to the Yadus. Look, where do you see Krishna here? He came and he saved us, and then he left. He lives always with his family, with the Yadus, so they're the highest. So then he went to the Yadus, and then he went to Ugrasena because he was the king of the Yadus. And Ugrasena said, if you want to go to the best devotee, then find wherever Uddhava is, because wherever Uddhava is, you'll find Krishna, because they're always together. Like this he kept. And then there was a whole scene where Uddhava was, outside, and Krishna had a dream, and, he was feeling separation from the Brajbasis, and there was a whole discussion, about who some people took the sides of the Brajbasis, and other people took the sides of, Krishna, and like that. And finally, it ended up that, the Brajbasis were the most favorite, and the Gopis, and then finally Radharani was the most favorite. So then, then Narada Muni went all that way, and finally he's sitting there and having dinner with Krishna. And then he asks Krishna himself, so what about this? What do you think? What he wanted to write from him. And he said, Narada, don't you understand that every single person you met was capable of delivering the whole world? They're all equally great. So in order to understand that, you have to understand that there's different grades of devotees, and different devotees who like to be with Krishna in different ways, and for that person, that's the best way. But you may analyze, systematically, who is more intimate with Krishna or whatever, but it doesn't mean that any of the devotees are less dear to Krishna. But we're all, bewildered by the material energy, and therefore we're always trying to see things higher or lower, and therefore we'll try to avoid the people that are higher and go with the people that are lower, and in that way we spoil our devotional lives. So even if you are in the spiritual world a gopi or a cowherd boy, or a motherly or fatherly figure with Krishna, whenever you're with devotees, then you worship them. Just as Narada worshipped each one of the devotees. That's the plot of the first part of the Bhagavatamrita. Narada goes to a devotee and says, "Oh, you must be the greatest devotee." And then the devotee says, No, I'm not the greatest devotee. And then he defeats it first of all, explains specifically how he's not very good. And then he says to the higher devotee, he says, he's better because, and then he analyzes that other devotee. And then Narada keeps going from one to the other. And then he finally gets to Krishna, the final authority. And Krishna said, don't you understand? They're all great. They all can deliver the whole universe. Because my pure devotee always thinks of me. So even if they think in a different mood, or if they think in a different way, that doesn't make them any less dear to me than one or the other. Hare Krishna. And with that, I will leave you all. It's 5 minutes to 8. Hare Krishna. Shri Prahlada Maharaj ki jai. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. See you tomorrow night, same time, same place, same station. Hare Krishna, everyone.